Nrsimha Madim Sharanam Prapade. Avagara Kamara Bode Nakam Madhutta Shingam Talita Hiranyakashipu Tanuvringam Keshavadita Radhadirupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Avakara Komolo bre Nakam Madhutta Shingam Alita Hiranyakashipu Tanuvringam Keshavadita Radhadirupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Singha Jai Nrsimha Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Pralada Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Shri Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha Dev Shri Nrsimha Jaya Jai Nrsimha Dev Shri Nrsimha Jaya Jai Nrsimha Dev Lada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Lada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Anadadisha Jaya Padma Padma Bingo Anadadisha Jaya Padma Padma Bingo Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jana Balaba Giribada Yashuranandana Vrajajana Yashuranandana Vrajajana Yashuranandana Vrajajana Yashodanandan Raja Janadam Ramunatida Onos Ramunatida Jadi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 32. This chapter is called Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. This morning's verse is text number 3 on the board. You kindly repeat this after me, line by line. Tat Shadaya Kranto Mati Pitir Deva Vrata Puman Gatva Chandra Masham Lokam Somapa Punar Eshyati Tat Shadaya Kranta Mati Pitir Deva Vrata Puman Gotva Chandra Masam Lokam Sumapa Punareshyati Yachadaya Kranta Mati Piti Deva Vrata Puman. Such materialistic persons attracted by sense gratification and devoted to the forefathers and demigods can be elevated to the moon, where they drink an extract of the soma plant. They again return to this planet. Purport: the moon is considered one of the planets of the heavenly kingdom. One can be promoted to this planet by executing different sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature, such as pious activities in worshipping the demigods and forefathers with rigidity and vows. But one cannot remain there for a very long time. Life on the moon is said to last 10,000 years according to the calculation of the demigods. The demigods' time is calculated in such a way that one day, 12 hours, is equal to 6 months on this planet. It is not possible to reach the moon by any material vehicle like a Sputnik, but persons who are attracted by material enjoyment can go to the moon by pious activities. In spite of being promoted to the moon, however, one has to come back to this earth again when the merits of his work in sacrifice are finished. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:21. Titam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punya martilokam vishanti. Once more, this verse reads, Toch shradhaya kranta mati pitideve vrata puman gatva chandramasam lokam soma pa punar eshati. Such materialistic persons attracted by sense gratification and devoted to the forefathers and demigods can be elevated to the moon, where they drink an extract of the soma plant. They again return to this planet. Ukam karoti bachalam mangam langayate grimir kripatanam mande Sri Gurundina Taranam. In yesterday's program, the so-called philosopher was also there to present his ideas of chaos as being the ultimate state of affairs. He said that previously he had been a Buddhist, and he mentioned that in Buddhism there is the depiction of the universal mountain Sumeru. So we didn't talk about this, but I would have pointed out, if there had been more time, that this is, of course, as we know, originally Vedic conception, which was borrowed by the Buddhists. Buddhism also started in India and has borrowed practically everything from Vedic philosophy, but has just jumbled it up. So he was saying how investigation of the history of the scriptures and the scientific progress have shown that so many of the claims of scriptures, not only the Bible, but he was mentioning Mount Sumeru as another example, showing that these claims cannot be accepted, at least as they might have been accepted in the past. That there is a literal, physical mountain that ascends upward through the universe for many, many thousands of yojanas. And this mountain is the central pivot of the whole universe around which everything is turning. All the stars are connected to this, and they turn in their circle, with this Sumeru as the hub, and at the top of Sumeru is the lotus planet of Brahmaloka. Actually, this Sumeru is the lotus stem, which appears as a mountain. But obviously it is not open to the inspection of our physical senses, although there is some indication of its existence in the terms that are presented here. Srila Prabhupada writes that the demigod's time is calculated in such a way that 1 day, 12 hours, is equal to 6 months on this planet. So when we go to the north of this planet, north means up. So in other words, as we go higher up on this planet, then we reach a region which is, and I'm telling you an argument that I've heard Srila Prabhupada use, we reach a region that is always covered by ice and snow. So Srila Prabhupada, in his explanation of, for example, the account in the Mahabharata of the Pandavas at the end of their life on earth, they went upward into the mountains, actually ascending this Mount Sumeru. And but Prabhupada referred to, he referred not actually to the Himalaya mountains in India, but at least in one lecture he was referring to the North Pole. And he was saying this place is always covered by ice and snow, as described in the Mahabharata, that place upward where the Pandavas went. Now the interesting fact, scientific fact, is when one goes up to the North Pole, then the length of the day and the night changes from what we experience here or most places on this earth. When we go up to the North Pole region, then the day actually becomes 6 months in length, and the night is also 6 months in length. And the South Pole, it's the opposite. That's also interesting. The South Pole, the opposite, that means the way down to Bilasvarga, where the demons live. Then what is night for those above is day for those below, and what is day for those above is night for those below. So you see that also here, that illustration mentioned in Gita, 2nd chapter. But of course, in this human body, we can go up to this region, trudge around in the Arctic Circle. We can experience a 6 months day and a 6 months night, but we are not able to go further. And here is mentioned ascension to the moon planet, Chandra. So this is another controversy. This is actually an issue which ultimately shattered faith in the Western world, in the Catholic doctrine. The Catholic Church by the 13th century, had incorporated as its philosophy. It had its theology from the Bible, but it needed a philosophy in order to become the leading light of a civilization. So there is no philosophy in the Bible. So they needed to get a philosophy from somewhere. So they got it from Aristotle, Greek philosopher, who was a disciple of Plato, but he rebelled against Plato and came up with his own idea of things. So this Aristotle had a image of the universe as being a kind of globe with many layers within, and these layers were different regions. So concentric globe, one globe within another, something like many glass balls inside of one another, something like that, because these regions are fine. And he said there are 56 such regions in the universe. And he divided the universe. The dividing point was at the moon. So the moon was the beginning of the heavenly region, where he said the moon and beyond, there are actually, he gave a concept like demigods. There are super powerful beings. They are not the supreme being. He had an impersonal idea of the supreme being, but these upper regions are ruled by beings who are much more powerful than human beings. So in his terminology, there is a superluminary region, which means above the moon and beyond, and a sublunary region, below the moon, the earth. And this sublunary region, this earthly region, is of course mundane and full of suffering. We human beings are trapped in this existence, and as we experience it. But when one goes up to the moon, starting at the moon, that's where heaven starts. The moon is a heavenly place, totally unlike the earth. And the beings of the moon are, of course, divine, angelic, so on and so forth. So the Catholic Church had incorporated this philosophy. They had a doctrine that you take your theology from the Bible and your philosophy from Aristotle, and then you'll be a bona fide Catholic. But then Galileo came along, the famous Galileo, and he had a little telescope. From what I've read, it was as big as a cigar. But with this telescope, he was able to see the moon and more of other planets. And so one radical thing he said is that the planets are moving around the sun. The church didn't like that because their belief was geocentric, that everything revolves around the earth. And another thing he said is, looking at the moon is a big cratered desert with mountains. It seems to be made of the same stuff as the earth. And also I didn't see any evidence of angels up there. So, of course, his findings were suppressed by the church, but they couldn't be kept down. It spread through the underground, and more people started getting telescopes and looking up. And in this way, this set off the whole reaction of doubt against the monolithic church and its doctrine. And so then schisms appeared, and Protestantism came out, and science came out of it, and so here we are now. And nobody believes anymore that the Earth, that the Moon is a heavenly planet in the West, and NASA claims to have sent some men up there, and they walked around, and collected some rocks, and brought them back. So this is now the view. But you see, Aristotle's description of the universe did not take into account that these layers or levels are indeed levels of consciousness. As Prabhupada said, the moon is presided over by Chandra, the demigod Chandra. So yes, he is a superior to human beings, and he and the Pitris, the forefathers who have earned a place on the moon, they live there in another dimension of consciousness, another dimension of awareness, perception, knowledge, which is superior to our own. So we do not have the ability by machinery, by mechanics, by physical power to break into that realm of consciousness. Just as much as we do not have the power to break into Goloka Vrindavan, send a spaceship, fly through the layers of the universe and enter Vaikuntha. We certainly can't do that. Krishna did it with his chariot, taking Arjuna to see Mahavishnu with a Sudarshan Chakra in front. But we have no such ability, and we have not even the ability to go to the moon. So whatever was done by the scientists, they're seeing the moon, so-called, to a telescope, and so-called going there in a tin can with a rocket motor on the back of it. This is all in terms of physical space and mechanics, which is the Shudra approach to things. The Shudras live in that level of awareness, of physics, mechanics, pushes and pulls, work, simply work. They don't even have a concept of value. The Vaishyas are better than the Shudras because the Vaishyas have enough, shall we say, abstract intelligence to assign value to things. This must be there in business. You see, things have their values, and this is on this basis you make business. I don't know, this watermelon is worth 3 potatoes in the marketplace. So this is an abstract idea, you see. But Shudras don't even have that intelligence. Shudras just see the gross physical things and their relationships, their physical relationships, nearness, farness, heaviness, like that. So therefore, Shudras are at the lowest level. Then the Kshatriyas are superior to the Vaishyas because Kshatriyas have a very strong moral code. They have a very strong sense of justice, which the Vaishyas don't have. Therefore, as Srila Prabhupada said, the Vaishya motto is, "For you I am making no money at all." You see, and it's always a lie. They're always making money, otherwise how can they be in business? So Vaishyas, they're their whole thing is to cheat your pants off if they can. But the Kshatriyas have a very strong moral code, and they use this to keep the Vaishyas and the Shudras under control. I was just reading when we were going to Nijmegen, there was a book of conversations in the glove box of the van, so I was reading it for a while. And there I saw where Prabhupada said, the Kshatriyas use force. This is their nature. They enforce Vedic Dharma. So their sense of Dharma manifests in this, in law, in justice, in control of the activities of the lower Varnas. And above the Kshatriyas are the Brahmanas, who have knowledge. So they have Shastra Chakshush, the power to see through the eyes of Shastra. So in order to understand this description, today's verse, one must have those kind of eyes. If one just has the eyes of a Shudra, only able to see gross physical interactions, then one will never be able to understand this description of persons rising to the moon as a result of the karma of their pious activities, and there they can enjoy somaras. But after, as Prabhupada explains, 10,000 years of life there, in this calculation of 6 months per day, they come back to this planet. Prabhupada explained they come down in the rain and take the birth ray again. So this sounds like a fairy tale to such people of Shudra mentality. But the Shudras are simply rooted in gross ignorance. Just like last night, the so-called philosopher who claimed to be to have attempted for, what was it, a total of 16 years, first as a Buddhist, then as an Advaitist. He attempted to achieve purity and transcendence. He told this whole sad story of his life as a Mayavadi. And how finally he realized, his experience was that this is all some kind of I don't think he used the word cheating, but more or less that's what he was saying, that the whole idea of an exalted realm of enlightenment is not true. It's and then he started talking about Nietzsche. Apparently his acharya is Friedrich Nietzsche, and so Nietzsche made all these criticisms of religion and said God is dead, and he explained all these things. Of course, there are many things about Nietzsche he did not explain, but we didn't really have time to get into that. And also, one has to be careful in such type of setting what one says. There's a principle in discussion that one should not make ad hominem attacks. In other words, one should talk about the idea, not about the person. But you see, Nietzsche, the God is dead philosopher, he was, this gentleman was stressing again and again, he's the first philosopher who said God is dead. Like, this is a real, turning point of human intellectual life. And what he didn't say is the last 10 years or so, 10, 12 years of Nietzsche's life, he was a madman. He went totally insane and was staying in Switzerland in an asylum. And he stopped writing and he stopped speaking. He couldn't, because he was absolutely crazy. So I was contemplating making some, first explaining the meaning of the word acharya. One of, teaches not only by words, by example. And then I was thinking of asking this gentleman, do you consider your Nietzsche to be your acharya? And I was expecting that he would answer yes. And then I would say, well, so you have an acharya who is a madman. Yes, in his philosophy he is mad. As this gentleman was saying, he was referring to Greek tragedy. So this idea of chaos, which he was saying is the ultimate state of affairs, is illustrated by the tragedy of our life. that bad things are happening to us and we don't know why, and that is simply the actual state of the world. So this is all Shudra. Shudra, first of all, what does Shudra mean? One who always laments, one who suffers, one whose life is a tragedy. And he doesn't know why he suffers. He can't trace it out like the Greeks. The Greeks did not, for all of whatever philosophy they had no idea of the law of karma. That's not anywhere. Nothing like that is found in Greek philosophy. Simple explanation of karma. That is absent. They had some idea of soul, and even some philosophers reincarnation, but not karma. So therefore, Greek philosophy is overshadowed by this. He said it himself, fatalism. And I was talking about this in Nijmegen when I was there. When you don't know what is the controlling principle of our life, then you just come to this conclusion that things are happening. It's fate, it's destiny, and we can't explain why. Suddenly I go to the doctor, and the doctor tells me that I've got cancer of the intestine, lower intestine, and that's just my tragic fate. I don't know why. And life is hellish. Life is chaos. Chaos. As a matter of fact, just the other day out here, one of our friends of our temple, you all know him, dear old Shami. So he came up, and we were departing, I think, for Nijmegen that day, and he came and he was saying hello to me, and then I said, how are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm suffering so much. And then he said himself, my life is a chaos. You see, so chaos is always associated with suffering. You see, so this gentleman last night, this is what these rascal philosophers do. They're suffering due to ignorance, but they try to make a philosophy out of it. And they try to say that's the only reality is suffering, because they're suffering. But this is a real Shudra, and a rascal Shudra, because at least in Vedic civilization, it's interesting. Another thing about Nietzsche is that he very much liked the Manu Samhita for some reason. I was thinking if there would have been time to bring that up too, because that really goes against what he was presenting, that Nietzsche says there's no order, but Manu Samhita very definitely gives a vision of order and stratification of human beings into varnas and ashrams and their duties, and what happens if they don't follow these duties. So Nietzsche was he did write that the Manu Samhita is a much superior scripture to the Bible. He glorified it. So I wonder what this gentleman would have said about that. But anyway, it's clear that the Shudras are in the mode of ignorance. They suffer. But in Vedic culture, they're not given opportunity to preach a Shudra philosophy. Therefore, even in Vedanta Sutra, there is that prohibition that Shudras may not study the Vedas. Because if a Shudra studies the Vedas, he's going to, well, we saw last night, he's going to understand it like that man did. And he didn't understand anything. You see, all he understood, it was very clear. He just kept coming back to my experience. Has been very unhappy. I tried. I had a guru for 11 years, and for 5 years I was a Buddhist. And my experience, I didn't make any progress. And then I asked him the question. At one point, we were talking back and forth, and I was being very careful because I didn't want to, again, seem like I was attacking him or Nietzsche, but I was just asking him certain questions. And so I was asking him why, in his scheme of things, he left out logic. You're using words, that's logic, but you've left logic out. And so then when we got on that point, by his own words, the total unlogic of his system was gradually revealed. At one point I asked him, so you say that you're a skeptic and we can never be sure of anything, so I said, are we here in the University of Amsterdam right now? Are we here in this room right now? And he looked at me and said, I don't know. So this is supposed to be a philosopher, this is supposed to be a teacher. Unfortunately, in the audience, some of these kids are so... when you have a lecture hall that's just, as I noticed when I walked out after the program, it's just one block down from the red light district. What do you expect? So a lot of the kids were very also under real tamoguna. So some of them are finding the things he was saying to be very interesting. So you have to be careful in such a situation. But at least I got him to admit that ultimately he doesn't know anything. And yet, you see, this is a Shudra. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know if he's, when he's sitting in the lecture hall in the University of Amsterdam, he doesn't even know if he's really there or not. This is a real Shudra. And yet, in Kali Yuga, the Shudras speak. They philosophize. He was saying, we can't help but philosophize. We have to philosophize. Not in Vedic culture. Not people like you, sir. They're not allowed to philosophize. Because they have nothing to say. Everything is arising from I don't know. I don't know. I'm suffering. And then they project their own ignorance and suffering upon everything. And they say the priests, the Brahmins, they're just cheating us. You see, but this is rascaldom. You see, this is rascal. You're in an inferior position, and you're claiming, you're making claims about persons in superior positions. So this is going on in this context too. Earthly scientists who are also no better than Shudras, they're saying, no one lives on the moon, we went to the moon, blah blah, this that, we know what the moon is, blah blah. And what do they know? You see, all they know is gross physical matter, and the mechanical relationships between gross physical matter. They do not know. According to Vedanta, the universe is divided into. This is the Shtula region. This earthly region is the region of Shtula Sharira, which means gross physical body. And the moon and above, this is Burlok. So this is Shtula region. Bhuvaha, and Sva. This is already the Linga, a subtle region. And then above that, we have a region called Karana, causal, like Brahmaloka, where Brahma is the creator. So that's even a higher region, the Karana region of the universe. So these are domains, realms, which do not correspond to the relationships set up here in the Shtula region between gross physical objects. This is not the way you get up there, by getting in a machine and with so much horsepower and so much fuel in the tank, and then you can calculate, yes, with a motor of this type and fuel of this type I should be able to go such and such distance and therefore reach the moon, which is 400,000 miles away by our calculation. You see, yeah, you go somewhere. That's what Prabhupada said. They went somewhere, but not to the moon. Not to the moon that is described here in the Vedic scriptures. Srila Prabhupada had different scenarios, and one of them was that they were tricked by Chandradev. They may have tried to approach the moon, but because he is superior, he's in a superior position. Like Prabhupada said, if you're coming from an inferior country and you try to enter a superior country, then you'll be prevented at the border. The government will not let you in. They'll look at your passport. Wait a minute, what is this? Like here in Holland, if someone tries to enter from, I don't know, Rwanda, comes from Rwanda in Africa, just shows up on a flight and tries to walk into the country. They see this Rwandan passport. Wait a minute, you have no visa. Go back. So this was one scenario Prabhupada presented. That on the physical level of movement, they may have tried to approach the moon, but they could not actually enter the moon, that region which exists in the linga, subtle realm of the universe, antariksha, in outer space. So today is the day of Nrsimha Caturdasi, the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. So Hiranyakashipu was a demon, but a very special demon, like his later incarnation, Ravana. He was a Brahmana, and he was a master of the Vedic knowledge. At least we should say the materialistic aspect of the Vedic knowledge. Now this is interesting because, as we see in this verse, materialism does not merely mean gross materialism, as I described Shudras as being. They are gross materialists, but what is being described in this text 3 of chapter 32, canto 3? The verse begins, such materialistic persons, but they're using Vedic knowledge, and so by using Vedic knowledge they do have access to more subtle regions of this universe, more subtle but nonetheless material regions. So Hiranyakashipu, being a master of Vedic knowledge and having all kinds of mystic powers granted him by Brahmaji, who was the Adi Kavi of the Vedic scriptures, then he could actually conquer this whole universe, and he could subjugate the demigods. So this is the dream. This is the core program of every materialistic person, even the so-called nice ones, who have big smiles. How are you today? And very friendly. But everyone who's in this material world, their agenda is to rise to the top, take control, claim this world as their own. And just like Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful. He was so powerful that he took over responsibility for natural phenomena. He took that all away from the demigods. Or in other words, he had the demigods serving him. The natural phenomena became his servant. So this is unique in the history of the world. Prabhupada said there was only one demon of that stature ever, Hiranyakashipu. And actually we know he is actually an eternal associate of the Lord in the role of a demon, and therefore due to the Lila Shakti, he could attain such an extraordinary position. But Prabhupada so brilliantly, in explaining the meaning of the name Hiranyakashipu, he reveals that every materialistic person is a little Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya, gold, wealth. Kashipu, soft bedding. You see, this is what they want. They want wealth, money, gold, so they can, with that they can live as they like, get whatever they want. And what do they want? They want simply a nice place to lay down and be comfortable with a member of the opposite sex, enjoy sense gratification. So this is the Hiranyakashipu program. There was only one personality in the history of the whole world who actually achieved the full dream of every materialist, and that was this Hiranyakashipu. And Bhagavatam points out about him that even though he had attained that, he was not happy. There is this verse, I just don't remember the whole verse, but it has this line, Trilokam Ajitendriyam, that one may conquer, this is in reference to Hiranyakashipu, that one may conquer the Trilok, the three worlds, Bhur, Bhuva, and Sva. One may, like Hiranyakashipu, do that. But that world conqueror, he's still nonetheless Ajitendriyam, which means he has not conquered his senses. After all, why is he trying to conquer the world? Because he has not conquered his senses. If one has conquered one's senses, if one actually has sense control, and one it follows one has no interest then to conquer the rest of the world, because one is self-situated, Atmarama then. In fact, one becomes a well-wisher of the world. One does not want to seize the world in one's grip and enjoy it. So this, the Bhagavatam points out, he conquered the three worlds, but he did not conquer his senses, and therefore he was not happy. With all of that, wealth, I think I mentioned here, yes, some days ago about Hiranyakashipu's earring. This is in the, there is supplementary literature to Ramayana, and in one of these stories it tells how Ravana went down to see Bali Maharaj, who was the king of the demons in the Bila Svarga, and Ravana's appeal to Bali is, we're both of the same Asura Vamsa. You're a big demon, I'm a big demon. Now I've got this war going against Ramchandra, so you should help me. You're a powerful demon king. You've got so many soldiers at your disposal. You should come up to Lanka and join me. And Bali Maharaj said, sorry, nothing doing. I am not going to take part in this war because I already know how it's going to end. I've had my own experience with Vishnu. Therefore, I surrendered to him. And that's what you should do. But of course, Ravana couldn't hear this. So then Bali Maharaj said, all right, I'll do one thing. I'll give you a donation. An army also needs money, just like modern armies today. The American army is the strongest because it has the most money. It can develop all these fantastic weapons. So I'll give you a big donation, just you have to carry it away yourself. So he took him to what appeared to Ravana to be a mountain of gold. A mountain of gold so big he couldn't estimate. He tried to fly over it. He couldn't surpass the top of it. And this mountain of gold was embedded with huge diamonds. Giant diamonds as big as elephants, it is described. It was encrusted with diamonds as big as elephants all over it. So he was amazed, and of course he was very attracted and attached to it. But when he tried to lift it, he couldn't. It was too big. And so he demanded to know, what is this? And Bali Maharaj said, you see what I'm trying to tell you? Please listen to me. This mountain, of this thing that you see as a mountain of gold, which you cannot even lift and take away, because that was the deal. King Bali said, if you can take this with you, you can have it. But he couldn't take it, so it had to remain in the Sutal. So this mountain of this, what you see as a mountain of gold, which you cannot even lift a few inches off the ground, this was one of Hiranyakashipu's earrings, which fell down here when he was killed by Lord Dachingadeva. Now you come to me and you ask me to aid you in your fight against the same Supreme Personality of God. It was now a appeared as Lord Ramchandra. Well, this is why I am having nothing to do with your program, because I may be in the Asura Vamsa, but I have learned my lesson, and I too have surrendered to the Lord. You have no chance, Ravana. Your whole program is hopeless. But Ravana, he just left. And as he left the Sutal, Lord Vamanadev, who guards, who is the doorkeeper, he gave Ravana a kick, kicked him across the universe. So this is a nice story. So anyway, Hiranyakashipu, he was so powerful and so wealthy. He attained the dream of the materialist. As much as it can be attained in this material world, he had attained it more than any other demon ever has since. But Bhagavatam says he was not happy. He was agitated. He was disturbed. And you see this in his relationship with his son Prahlad. Now, Prahlada, his son was actually in bliss. Hlada means like Hladini Shakti, and Pra in Sanskrit, when Pra is put in front, it means it magnifies. Means very, very, very blissful. So his son Sri Prahlad was a very happy, blissful devotee of the Lord. And Hiranyakashipu was very agitated. What is with my son? What's wrong with him? What is he? And he was ready to persecute, chastise the sons of Shukracharya because he thought they were misleading him. But they said, no, we're Brahmins of demons. We never teach about Vishnu or anything like that. We just teach Trivarga. We don't even teach Chaturvarga, Moksha. Just Trivarga. Dharma, Artha, Kam. This is sufficient education, especially for Asuras, and this is all we teach. So, we see how agitated Hiranyakashipu was. And finally he was prepared to kill his own son out of anger and frustration. So this is not happiness. But instead he was, of course, killed by the glorious appearance of Lord Nrsimha Kijai. Tanu Bringam, who took this powerful demon with his earrings as big as mountains. But in the hands of Lord Nrsimha, he was like Bringa, like a little insect. And like a child takes apart, this is what children do. They seize bugs and pull them apart. So like that, he pulled apart the body of Hiranyakashipu, but delivered him. So this again, you see, this is another thing demons can't understand, like our gentleman last night. He has rejected the whole idea of liberation, of higher consciousness. Actually, you could see in his presentation, as he was seeing it as something sinister, something that is actually dangerous. This was what he was suggesting, especially by citing Nietzsche's criticisms of religion. So there's this, what did he say, priestly class all around the world that are taking their revenge from their priestly position. They gave this whole, very sinister, conspiratorial depiction of organized religion. And just in some respects it may be true. But what we see there is an attitude, first of all. An attitude. So this is the attitude of the demon towards liberation, towards the idea of a higher existence, a transcendental existence, a spiritual world, God. And therefore Nietzsche, yes, God is dead. This This is the demon. He wants to kill God, and he wants to, in this way, eradicate any possibility of there being anything else except this material world. You see? So the very idea that one can be delivered from material existence, a demon takes to be very sinister. You know, there's something behind this. They're trying to manipulate us. They're trying to cheat us with this. Watch out. You see? But this is the Lord's mercy. The Lord is so merciful that never mind this resistance. I'll come anyway. And he came in perfect reciprocation with both Hiranyakashipu and Sri Prahlad. It is described that his Lord Nrsimhadev's relationship with Prahlad Maharaj is like that of a mother lion to her cub. So lion is very ferocious. It's called the king of the beasts because it is so ferocious towards other creatures. All other creatures they must respect the lion. And lions are very intelligent. They're one of the cows, lions, and monkeys too. Monkeys have rascal intelligence. So they're among creatures most intelligent. And they, in different ways, their intelligence manifests in different ways. Just like in Africa, it was 100 years ago. Yes, it was just about 100 years ago. So the British were building a railroad in I forgot what country, maybe Kenya, Nairobi or Kenya. And we know this story because British system, because they had their world empire, so they couldn't get the Africans to work, or it was very hard to get Africans to work on such projects as building railroads. So what they did was, just like they did in Suriname and in Fiji, they imported Indians, the lower class Indians, who will do any job if they get paid, you see. So they brought them over from India, and they were working on this railroad. And it was a big drive because I think the British were in competition, I think, with the Belgians at the time. The Belgians also were nearby in the Congo and were, trying to organize that, so the British wanted to be ahead of them. So there was some big push to get this railroad done. And this way we surpassed the Belgians in their colonial conquest. So, but then there were these two lions, two male lions, and it was they were like a team, like a commando team. And for years, literally years, these two male lions, they were invading the camp at night, the workers' camp, and dragging off men. And they sent the big white hunters, big strong men with their big guns, and they couldn't. Finally, they were able, after years, to shoot one of these lions, but the other one they couldn't. And the Africans, they were saying that these lions are, some kind of spirits, not actually lions. Anyway, obviously they were showing very incredible intelligence, because these two lions were working together. They used to enter the camp from opposite directions. One would create a disturbance, so everyone was looking that way. The one would come and jump from behind and grab. And then when they were looking that way, then the other one would jump and grab and pull away. So they had a whole military organization. And we learn from the Vedic scriptures that living entities in lion form, their next birth will be in Kshatriya type families. So lions are very intelligent. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but so yes, I'm saying that mother lion, Lion is ferocious, feared by everyone, but towards its own cub, mother lion there's so much love, and this is also seen. The lions and lionesses and tigresses, they take care of their little ones very, very nicely, very affectionate. And so, in that way, this is Lord Nrsimhadev's relationship with Prahlad, and with Hiranyakashipu, it's the other way. This appearance of the Lord, Prabhupada once said, Lord Nrsimhadev is the form of God's anger. Everything originates in Krishna, in God, including even anger, and everything within God is personal. So God's anger has personal form, and that is Nrsimhadev. So he manifested from the pillar in that angry form, and perfectly reciprocated with the demon Hiranyakashipu, who had struck the pillar. Is God in this pillar? And Prahlad actually could see Lord Nrsimhadev there already. He could see him inside the pillar. He said, "Yes, Father, he's there. Then I'll kill your God." This is the demon. He can't stand, this is a demon, he can't stand the very idea of God. And he becomes all agitated and needs to act out. He needs to try to prove that there is no God and there is no spiritual world. There's nothing except this material world, and there's no purpose to life except sense gratification. He has a very strong need to act this out. So he smashed the pillar. Lord Nrsimhadev came out, and this was their reciprocation. So this is the mercy of Krishna. He's so merciful. That even though Hiranyakashipu didn't want, he had this typical demoniac view towards the Lord and the process of liberation. Still, by the mercy of the Lord, he was liberated. And so, this is also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's program, but in a different mood. The mood of love and kindness, magnanimity, audarya towards the living entities. Because everyone is Hiranyakashipu now. So what will the Lord do? Come and just kill everyone? Actually, one day he will come as Kalki avatar and kill everyone except a few devotees. But now is not the time for that. Now there's still enough Sumedha in this world, still enough intelligence, still enough people who haven't become devotees of crazy acharyas like Friedrich Nietzsche, and thereby completely lost their intelligence. There's still enough good intelligence in this world there. A good portion of the population can accept this process of Nama Sankirtan. And in this way, by taking the holy name, the demoniac mentality is killed, just as that Hiranyakashipu inside of us is killed. Therefore we pray from Srimad Bhagavatam. There's that nice prayer that Namastejase Avir Avir Bhava Vajranaka Vajranangsta Karmasayam Randaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Svaha Abhayam Abhayam Agni Bhuishta Om Ksham. We pray to Lord Nrsimhadev that with your powerful spiritual Vajra Naka, nails, Vajra Tantra, teeth, that you pull out all of the seeds of karma from my heart. In other words, you pull out, just as you took apart the body of Hiranyakashipu, you take out this Hiranyakashipu from my own heart. And in this way, by your grace, then I will achieve actual abhaya, fearlessness. Abhaya charanara vindure, like in Govinda Das's song. Attaining the lotus feet of the Lord means the real fearless position. Otherwise, yes, Even someone as powerful as Hiranyakashipu, he was, as I said, agitated, not happy. And why is that? Because haunted by fear. Bhayam dvitiya biniveshyat shat. This is the ultimate principle of material psychology. That behind everything, because we have chosen to accept something other than the shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, we have chosen to be in this world of Maya, to try to be separate from Krishna, to try to be Krishna ourselves. Therefore we must be haunted by the fear, the fearful result of such a mistake, such a grave error. So fear is removed, that anxiety, all these things that arise from that fear, frustration, anger, all the dilemmas and all the doubts and all chaos that results. It is all removed if we simply pray to the Lord, accept Him into our hearts in the form of this process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is today especially the day to pray to Lord Nrsimha that He may show His mercy upon us, forcibly remove, because we can't do it ourselves. Therefore that Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtaki. So this verse says, yes, we have our nitya seva to do. It means our daily service to the Lord. We hear and we recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. We try to bring the Bhagavat Shabda into the core of our heart. We perform Bhagavat Seva, service to our spiritual master, service to our founder Acharya. All of our activities, Bhagavat Seva. So this we do every day. This is our, Prabhupada said, regular work. He used to use this term, our regular work. Everyone must do their regular work. But this by itself, the Bhagavatam says, it purifies the heart, but not completely. What is this? Bhakti becomes established in the heart. Nishta, firm faith in bhakti, is established in the heart as a result of this process of sadhana. But that final severing of the hard knot, the Hridaya Grantha, that final severing, that is not within our power. That is not something we do. That the Lord does. Only He has that power to sever that hard knot. So therefore, Nrsimha Caturdasi is an excellent day to pray to that severing power. Vajranaka Vajrangsta. Vajra means like as powerful as lightning, like Indra's Vajra weapon. So the nails, the teeth of Lord Nrsimha, they are diamond hard. And we pray to Him to pull out by the roots the karma from the core of our heart. So I'll stop here. Any questions?